Out through your mouth. Take one more. Breathe into your heart chakra. Feel that energy opening up and experiencing the power of your heart and all of the beauty that's within it. Take another deep breath and breathe into your root chakra, the source of life, our womanhood, our sexual power, our vitality. And while you're in that space, I want you to think on all of these words as I speak them. Goddess of love, beauty, and sensuality, Aphrodite from the sea, be with us in this sacred circle to remind us of our capacity to love with joy, passion, and tenderness. Show us the power we have to go within, to emotionally heal our hearts while celebrating and appreciating our power as women. Let the rosy glow of optimism, enthusiasm, glamour, and unconditional love inspire us to find a well to draw from when we feel isolated, lonely, anxious, or angry. Allow us to see and feel clearly into the power of emotional alchemy so that we may better commune with your power within us. May we recognize the blush of your beauty all around us, in nature, the beauty of the new dawn, the vibrant sunset, the rolling waves of the ocean, the cooing of doves among tender, silky petals of sumptuous flowers redolent with the romantic sacred perfume oils to anoint ourselves with in celebration of light, love, passion, and vitality. Balance and harmonize our heart and root chakras so that we may feel engaged in the vital flow of womanly power coursing through us, motivating us to continue our heroic archetypal journey towards self-empowerment. Glorious Aphrodite, be with us now. Sing the songs of ancient loves come to light and fruition. Bless our sacred circle with your beauty and love as we commune together as sacred sisters on this beautiful day. Take a few deep cleansing breaths and open your eyes when you are ready to join me in this sacred circle. Welcome. So, now that we're in this really calm, centered space, feeling all of that powerful love energy, let us continue on with our exploration of the incredible and rich mythos of the goddess Aphrodite. Of course, we know Aphrodite is an ancient goddess associated with love, lust, beauty, pleasure, passion, procreation, all of the fertility and sexual vitality associated with women. She is a goddess of beauty, a tamer of wild beasts, and one whom inspires within us that incredible ability to find the beauty in everything around us. And that's not always just, from the sexual perspective, although that sexual energy, of course, is prominent. There's the other aspect of that. We can look at the agape, the universal, beautiful feeling of love, of self, of others, how to express it, how to care for those around us and uplift them with the tenderness of love that we can share. So Aphrodite is all of those things. And although we associate her mostly with Hesiod's theogony, with Aphrodite being a creation of the ancient Greek pantheon coming into life through a rather violent act, the earth goddess herself, Gaia, had her consort Uranus completely on her all the time. There was no separation between the universe, heavens, and earth at that time. They were communing together and were in the state of pretty much constant procreation. And at some point, Gaia grew weary of this, and she wanted to go more inward and tend to the generation of Earth itself and to have space. She didn't want to bear any more of Uranus's children. So she asked her son Kronos, one of the Titans, who is also famed for being the father of the Olympians, the original Olympian gods, with his wife, also a Titan, Rhea. Gaia implored her son Kronos to help her. She created a sickle and asked him to help alleviate this. So it was through the act of castration of Uranus that we get the classical mythological Hesiod version of the story of the creation of Aphrodite. So in that sense, Kronos threw the dismembered phallus into the ocean, into the sea, mixed with the sea foam, and from that sprang out of the primordial waters, which is very symbolic, up out of the ocean. We think of her coming up out of the sea on an unfolding clamshell, being, of course, the classic interpretation, being born of all of that incredible primordial energy, coming forth and just being full-blown, beautiful, fully created female goddess, and poised to bring light and love to humankind as well as to the immortals. And she created, the beautiful legend goes then after that she caused the sky to blush, right, with her beauty, like thinking of it as, the new dawn. And as she emerged from the water, swans came to pull her, which later is she's associated with having the chariot of the giant clamshell chariot being drawn by swans to the shore, where she steps aboard off into the ocean, into the water, and right up onto the land, and creates this incredible sense of love, passion, beauty. Things spring to life around her. There's this unfurling of, passion and life and light, and doves alight on her shoulders, and it's this whole incredible scene. So that is the creation we're most familiar with when we think of Aphrodite. And of course, in ancient Rome, she was called Venus. Similar adaptations of that. I personally like to focus on the ancient Greek, having been in Greece and having grown up with the Grecian versions of the myths. I feel more of a kinship toward that pantheon. Not that I don't appreciate Rome's as well, but so that's that classical look we have at the creation of Aphrodite and all that it represented. Now, there is a version of Aphrodite that ties back to an even more ancient representation and worship. She is known and in more ancient times, or is associated with the goddess Astarte, it's an Eastern Semitic goddess, as well as the goddess Ishtar. So we can see that those goddesses have a similar tie to Aphrodite as well, and are even more deeply rooted in the context of the original sort of goddess figure. Now we think of the separation of all the goddess deities, but we think of the Aphrodite, the Astarte, Ishtar as having that kind of deep, robust, incredible, fertile, passionate goddess energy. And so she has that tied to her as well. In fact, there's this incredible ancient sculpture, many of you, I'm sure, Monica, you know about, that's really robust looking, full-figured, compact goddess figure with the big boobies and her big womanly hips, right? And this is like a very ancient representation of that goddess energy, pre-Hellenistic, pre-Hesiod, all of that. Representation of what we consider as like an ancient form of that Aphrodite or Venus energy. So it's very primal. We have always, I think, as humans, found the power of the passion, the reproduction, the fertility that we possess as women. And it was a very primal and powerful thing, and there were so many mysteries associated with it. And you can think of, you know, early woman discovering her rhythms, her cycles, her menses, and how that flowed, and what happened when she procreated, what happened when she bore a child, or what happened when she fell in love. There is so much to that. And then that love and that nurturing that she would then give to those around her, and the passion for being a mother in the ancient sense, right? So there is a lot to the ancient feelings of the Aphrodite. And as I was afore mentioning, that we have all of the different distinct archetypes within us. So we have that power within. We can seek it without. And I'm a spiritualist, I'm a mystic guide. So I like to think of it as we carry the power within to be evolved, to be connected to something greater in the universe. We're tied to the universe. We're connected to the earth. We are part of this incredible evolution of a species. And okay, I'm reading what Monica's saying here. Okay, let me take a quick peek at my chat real quick. There are Venus fertility figures in every civilization, although the Venus of Willendorf is the most recognizable. Exactly. That's because it was such a well preserved Sorry about that. I'm back. I clicked the wrong button. I don't often go back and forth between chat. Now I know how to do that. Whoopsie. Yes, it's such a well-preserved ancient fertility statue. And then we have the ones that we can consider like more from like the ancient Grecian cultures, where I know you know the ancient goddesses, they have like their arms above their head. There's usually a swirl in the abdomen, and then like a little, you know, conical looking body at the bottom. Those are also really ancient representations of fertility goddess, and we have that all over the world. I love to see the connections among the different cultures and how they reflect, and how there are similarities all throughout the world in ancient stories. And with Aphrodite, there is always an incredible, powerful love goddess. Now in ancient Egypt, we could consider Isis an association with that ancient fertility, magic, beauty, and all of those things, for example. So there's very much the Aphrodite love goddess, fertility goddess energy all over the world. And it's important to recognize that as we continue kind of in this modern way of feeling and being in the world, where there has been kind of a trivialization that the fertility, the love goddess, the beauty, the sensuality has kind of been made into like a token cliche in a lot of like modern adaptations and cultures, and sometimes it gives it a little bit of a negative connotation. What I want to do here in this class is to bring a little more recognition to all of the positive ways that we can work with Aphrodite. Now, Aphrodite had an incredibly pivotal role in a lot of ancient myths. And when she first came to Olympus, Hera, the very powerful, very intense queen of the gods and wife of Zeus, she immediately saw that this goddess needed to be married to someone immediately, because she was going to ensue bickering and battling among the male gods, and she could see it happening. And she also didn't want Zeus wandering off again. So she helped arrange the process which allowed Aphrodite to choose a husband. And Hera's son Hephaestus had a physiological issue. He was lame on one foot, when we assume, but he was also incredibly powerful for his upper body. He was the smith god. He made incredible armor, decorative things, jewelry, all the magical, beautiful things that the gods wore. So he stepped forward, and she encouraged him to do so, saying, I will make a good husband, I'll be loyal to you, and I work nights, basically, is the joke in the ancient myth. But she also saw something in him that was really tender. Aphrodite recognized that, that he may not have been the obvious, incredibly handsome, wonderful, beautiful choice, but there was something about Hephaestus that she knew he would be loving and loyal. So she agrees to marry Hephaestus, and then there is the incredible love affair that she had with the god Ares. Ares, god of war, passionate, perfect physique, handsome, aggressive, all of it. Like we can look at him as like the quintessential male archetype of, virile, strong, successful, and her being like the quintessential female, beautiful, tender, sensitive, romantic, all of those things in the ancient mythos, right? And in the makeup of the pantheon. But Hephaestus finds out, he figures it out, and he forges a net, an invisible net, that he hangs over the bed, suspended over them, and catches them in the act of making love, and then calls Zeus and the other gods in to witness it. And, Ares is, bellowing in a rage, and Aphrodite, however, though she knows she's been caught, isn't completely remorseful, because, well, the gods are, how do we say, unchangeable. And that's why they had this whole fascination with mortals. Mortals changed. They went through a cycle of life. They evolved. Their personalities could change based on circumstances throughout life. Drama, upset, tragedy would affect a person in a mortal world, and then they eventually move on and, pass on. Doesn't happen with the immortal gods. They are intact. Their personalities are a constant. So Aphrodite, as she is portrayed, is all of that, but she isn't without her scruples. And Hephaestus was just so in love with her, he did forgive her, and they continued their marriage. They had an understanding, and she appreciated the fact that he was so devoted to her. There's that level in that too. There's the other side of that spectrum. There is like the passionate love affairs that will burn out. And then there's like the other side, an Aphrodite archetype will gravitate towards and want to spend more of loyal time being romanced by someone who is devoted to her and worships her beauty and who she is and puts her a little bit up on a pedestal. It's part of that joie de vivre of being the fully embodied Aphrodite. Now, in our case, that's not our goal. What we're looking at here are the truths behind her mythos, her personality, what she represented. She also played an incredible role. She is a nurturer. She's not what we consider like the nurturing mother archetype and respect towards Demeter, for example, but she is a mother. She has children, and she becomes a surrogate mother to Adonis, and he spends part of his time with Persephone in the underworld and part of his time with Aphrodite. So she does kind of find her balance there. Of course, she also fell in love with Adonis too, and so did Persephone. So there was all of that going on. So she loved him as well in the romantic sense, but she also cared for him. Her own children, she had one of whom we associate highly in the Roman form with Valentine's Day. Cupid is the Roman version of Eros. Again, Eros is considered an ancient primordial god. Around the time of the ancient creation myth of the Greeks, in the chaos, there was Eros, and carrying like a fiery torch and all of this stuff. But in the Hesiod Hellenistic kind of like way of looking at the myths, which I love the allegorical style of the stories, he was portrayed as the son of Aphrodite and had wings and used a bow and arrow to bewitch people and make them either fall in love tragically or not, depending on which arrow he used. It was a whole thing. So he could cause people to fall in love with each other or to not fall in love with each other, and that could cause a lot of chaos. So she had to kind of keep him in check. She had other children too, a child with Hermes, who was a hermaphrodite. Hermes and Aphrodite, Hermaphrodite, that came up in the ancient myths as well. And she played a huge role in the myth of the apple of discord, the golden apple. The Prince Paris of Troy was considered to be very fair-minded. He was also very handsome, and the goddesses were very intrigued by him. So they wanted to find out who among them was the most beautiful. So it was Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. And they ask him, they say, we'll give you the golden apple, or they tell him, give the golden apple to whichever of us you deem most beautiful. And each goddess vies for his attention, promising him different things. Aphrodite, Athena, of course, offers him great wisdom and knowledge. And Hera offers him great power, that he would be an incredible, powerful king. And then Aphrodite says, I will give you the most beautiful woman in the world to be your wife. And he decided that was his choice. He gave the golden apple to Aphrodite. Thus, after that ensued the whole story of the Iliad, where it sparks a huge animosity because, of course, the most beautiful woman in the world was married to a king. So he, woos Helen of Sparta, I believe. And then she falls in love with him and goes off, and thus sparks the unbelievable war, the Trojan War. And it's interesting how one moment in time in a myth could spark this unbelievable Odyssey, the Iliad and then the Odyssey, just out of that one act. Paris deciding to give the apple of discord, the gold, which is called the apple of discord now, the actual golden apple, to Aphrodite. Why didn't he give it to Athena, right? But it wouldn't have made for a very interesting story, would it? So, there's a lot to all of that. There's a lot to this great goddess, this powerful love goddess. She was not always associated with being sweet and airy and beautiful and all of those things. No, she was calculating. She could be very vindictive and very cruel. to anybody, any mortal woman or other goddess, but specifically a mortal woman who may have been put on a pedestal and revered as beautiful as she, or called in her namesake, would suffer greatly. And in the allegorical story of Eros and Psyche, a mortal princess named Psyche was put on one such pedestal, and she was told through oracular power, and she was doomed to marry a monster. And so her parents did everything they could to attempt to prevent that. And so Aphrodite, being upset with the whole issue with this incredible, lovely princess, unbeknownst to her, being put on this pedestal, it's not because she particularly wanted it. She was kind, she was loving, she was humanitarian, she was gorgeous. She did not, however, presume to believe that she was Aphrodite incarnate. This is something that was kind of thrust upon her in the stories. And so Aphrodite encourages Eros to go and plague her with an arrow and have her fall in love with some hideous beast. So this is like her way of getting revenge. When Eros goes to do so, he's shocked by how beautiful Psyche is, slips and pierces himself with his own arrow. He falls completely in love with her and has arranged a way for them to be wed. They are going to be married, and she has to be blindfolded. She can't see him. She can't look upon him. And so, unbeknownst to Aphrodite, her Psyche's fate twisted in such a way that the monster she was meant to marry was her own son. So that is an unbelievable story. And when Aphrodite finds out, because Psyche eventually, through advice from her mother and sisters, lights a lantern or a candle, and depending on which way you want to look at it, more than likely an oil lamp, goes and looks upon him, spills some oil on him. He wakes up. She's enamored with the fact, realizing who her husband is, and then he recoils, saying, "What have you done?" He's like, "You weren't supposed to look at me. Now everybody is going to know. I have to go back to my mother. You're in danger," blah, blah, blah. So Aphrodite begins to then systematically put Psyche through unbelievable challenges. And Psyche is willing to, because at that point she then realizes she's pregnant and it is her husband and she does love him. So she goes on every dangerous quest that Aphrodite sends her on, which eventually takes her down to the Hades in the underworld, where she meets with Persephone and is given a box of beauty at request of Aphrodite. "Oh, please," she says, "bring me a box of beauty from Persephone. From worrying over my son, I need this. I need to replenish myself. Will you go get it?" So she's been warned not to eat or drink anything in the underworld. And when she comes back, she also thinks, well, maybe I will be more pleasing to my husband. She opens the box of beauty to anoint herself with just a little bit, and it turns out it's death. And Psyche's life is snatched away from her in a magical way, because Persephone is a sorceress, and she's pretty much gone, except for the fact that Eros rushes to her rescue, brings back her life, and through that transformation and the acceptance of the fact that she did everything that Aphrodite asked and more, Aphrodite agrees to allow her to be wed to her son, and she is taken before the gods, fed ambrosia, and is turned into a goddess. So Psyche becomes a beautiful goddess with butterfly wings. It's a long story, but there's a lot to all of these stories. There's so much within them. So Aphrodite's influence affected a lot of different stories throughout the ancient myths, and she's portrayed in incredible artwork throughout Greece. And you can see these statues. I saw them myself in the museums, and they're absolutely incredible. She was always being chased after by different gods, but particularly by the mischievous god Pan, the one that's half goat. And there's this amazing statue of her trying to struggle to get free from him as he's like lasciviously grabbing onto her, and she's holding up one of her sandals to smack him with it. But she also has this kind of little smile at the same time. Very playful. She resists it, but she thinks it's kind of amusing at the same time. So that is what I'm going to discuss today about the mythos behind and around some of the story of Aphrodite. And now I would like to, I'm just going to bring up my share screen for a moment. Now I would like to go ahead and talk to you. And if you have a notebook and pen handy, you can write these down. You can also take a photograph of the screen, but I will be sending you the video recording in the next few days so you can review that. These are different ways to work with and invoke the archetype of Aphrodite. So when we look at her archetypal influence, we want to be thinking of her as being in the space with us of having a powerful, loving voice within us. She is our sensuality, our sexuality, our ability to create and sustain beauty around us, the ability we have as women to work our glamour, and however we say that, we think of that as the magic, glamour, like you work your magic to influence the situation with all of the grace and beauty you have to bring to the situation you happen to be in or what you're manifesting with this style, grace, loving energy, your charisma, your magnetism, things that make you appealing to other people, and you're using it to create the feeling and the embodiment of love and energy around you. So Aphrodite is all of that. She's also, in this sense, we're going to look at her from the perspective of inspiring. What I want you to do is look at self-love. How do you, and I don't say this as a way of being egocentric about it, how do you express love for yourself? And while you're in that space, I want you to be looking at what it is about for you. How does it feel to care for yourself in a very personal way? What is it that you need to feel supported so that when you go out into the world or when you go out among your loved ones, you are confident, assured, and able to give them that love that you wish to receive in return? When you think about it, we have these thoughts and these patterns and this chatter within, right? And a lot of it tends to be negative. One of the emotional, archetypal, and alchemical ways you can stop that is to choose an archetype to work with. So if you're having any issues with anxiety or discomfort with gatherings or discomfort in your ways of communicating in your relationships with people, romantically or otherwise, you can use the Aphrodite archetypal voice to help inform how you want to proceed. Think of the scenario, for example, of advice you would give to your friend, a good friend, if they were having a hard time. You would more than likely be compassionate. You would listen. You would give supportive advice. You wouldn't be overly, well, we hope, depending on the situation, overly critical or unkind. You would be loving, supportive, there for them. So why is it when it's our own issues do we tend to turn around and look at ourselves and then put ourselves down? Why do we use that negative self-talk, that harsh chatter, the you're not right, this is a mistake, you're not in a good place, you're not good enough, all of those crippling, stress-producing, anxiety-invoking methods of stopping ourselves, keeping ourselves in a box of emotional rhetoric that absolutely does not have to do with the core truth of what's in your heart. Who you are in the core of your being inside your heart is someone that can be treasured, cherished, and appreciated. So ways of being in that space are really vital. So you can practice these acts of self-love to alleviate that, to release those traps, that emotional conditioning, that pattern that goes through your head. When you catch yourself doing it, doesn't mean it's going to stop. This isn't a magic, charm, but it is magical in a way that you can choose it in the moment to change it all around. If you catch yourself in that space in the next few days, notice when you're going there, when you start feeling those negative chatter and self, degradation coming up and making yourself feel bad, think about in the moment how you could transform that. So here are some ways to invoke Aphrodite in a modern setting with ways that we can do this to help ourselves. So manifesting the goddess of love and beauty. And I apologize for the typo. Whoopsie. Yes. Being by the ocean and in nature among flowers, birds, and other animals. Using your loving voice to break through emotional blocks. Being romantic, sensual, and confident. Using your own magical glamour to manifest love, beauty, and joy. Being the love you want to receive from others. The items of power that you can use to bring about and inspire and bring that beautiful Aphrodite energy to you are things such as, you can look for animal symbolism, dolphins, swans, doves, fish, and scallops. For foods, you could look at chocolate, apples, pomegranate, cherries, strawberries, and shellfish. The oils would be rose, ylang-ylang, jasmine, orange blossom, and amber. Accessories such as roses, flowers, gold jewelry, garnet, rose quartz, I'm wearing mine right now, scallop patterns, pearls, abalone, and images and statues of Aphrodite, of course. So those are all really beautiful ways that you can use and invoke and look for that. And if you're looking for it from the perspective of finding serendipitous things, so you start focusing on this beautiful Aphrodite energy, and then you begin to notice as you're thinking about it, as you're acknowledging and appreciating that energy within yourself, I want you to pay attention to what you find around you that aligns with that. Because usually when we're focused on something, we start bringing it forward to us. And on that note, yes, it's true. Actually, the Aphrodite rising from the ocean is depicted in a couple of different ways. It was either a clamshell or a scallop shell. Personally, I love the scallop shell because where I grew up on Nantucket Island, scallops were a big deal. So the scallop shell symbolism is really powerful. And it's also used interestingly, in the Christian religion, being representation of Christ, the scallop shell design. So if you look at it from that perspective, tying these things together, these myths into what was then absorbed into other religions later, you can see similarities in patterns and significance. The archetypal imagery associated with the ocean, the ability to bring things in life and energy and healing from the water by symbolism of the scallop shell or the clam shell. So all of these powerful things are ways that you can look for that Aphrodite. And while you're practicing the emotional alchemy of using Aphrodite's voice, and we'll get more into that during open forum, you'll be able to really get into this while using these different items. And I want you to, especially approaching Valentine's Day, okay, think about what you might do, not only to, if you have a partner, to celebrate and share that passion and love with a partner. If you don't, how to care for yourself and do something really special and wonderful for yourself. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Maybe buy yourself some roses or some chocolates. Maybe use some wonderful essential oils. Wear something sumptuous, something incredible that feels lovely on your skin. Velour, velvet, silk, satin, something that makes you feel just caressed and wonderful and sensual and voluptuous and feminine. All of that, which is Aphrodite. I'm going to go ahead quickly now back to share screen, and we'll talk about some really great ways that you can use this energy too while you're doing your inner work. I highly, highly, highly recommend journaling. Journaling is a great way to get your thoughts out on the page. Even if you're stuck emotionally or if you're upset or something's just not right, take a few beats, find the time. It only takes if you have 5 minutes, take 5 minutes and do some journaling. If you start making this a daily ritual or as often as you're able to, and you start using that, it's like, working a muscle. We start getting better, adept at writing our thoughts out as we practice it. These are some prompts that you can use, some questions, some thoughts and ideas you can work with in the next few days as you're working with Aphrodite. And I encourage you to focus on this and really do the work. Write it down, get it out, reflect on it, and think of how you can allow these prompts to help you with your emotional process towards self-empowerment. So, how do I practice self-love, and what can I do to better celebrate who I am as a woman? It's a powerful question. It's the first one I want you to work with, because I think that's where we're at right now. I think it's the first step, self-love. When I express my sensuality, it makes me feel. There's a prompt to get you to focus on the literal physical feeling of the sensual pleasure. Using my loving inner voice is healing blank within me. You fill that in. I love blank because blank. This is something you can use about yourself, a situation, or someone else in your life. It's a way of showing not only gratitude, but using the word love. What do I love about this particular thing? Brings the focus on it, makes it very positive, very powerful. When you write that down, write it down a few times, especially if it's something you're attempting to reinforce in yourself. I feel connected to the archetype of Aphrodite when I blank. You think about that. What does Aphrodite mean to you? What does it bring up for you? What do you experience when you think about it? Is there a block there? Is there something you need to work through to embrace that within yourself? So write that down. How do I define or experience romance and sexuality in my life? Now, we're not looking at it from the perspective of that, what we consider like the negative connotation in modern culture of turning an Aphrodite into something that is not okay, making it over the top, too much, indiscriminate. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at sacred sexuality, commitment, being in the space of exploring what it feels like for us as women, and a genuinely safe place. I'm not recommending anything other than that. I always say that these are just prompts. They're not suggestions or rituals or methods that you need to put in practice in ways that endanger yourself. Okay, making that very clear. This is just about exploring what it has been. You can look at it from alleviating any stress that may have come up for you in the past or in the present, working through it, and also then in the space of being able to celebrate it and what that means to you now, because Aphrodite is a sexual goddess. There is no getting around that. How does expressing love and affection towards my loved ones make me feel? It's like a gift to yourself to express love and appreciation and gratitude to others. So how does it make you feel when you do that? Is there something off there? Are you not fully engaged? Are you putting up a wall energetically to keep those good feelings out? Or are you open and experiencing it? Is it a cyclical kind of twofold thing? I give out, that which comes back in is karmic, right? How am I stuck in a familiar pattern when it comes to celebrating love, joy, and passion? Familiar patterns. That's where we talk about conditioning, emotional conditioning, the things that we continually do over and over again. We get that firing synapses in the brain. They want to go on the same kind of pathways. Sometimes they're stuck in sort of a negative space. Sometimes it's positive. So we hope for the positive. If they're not, what can you do to kind of get it unstuck, get it lubricated, so to speak, to find another way to express the passion, the love, the joie de vivre, the beauty? What can you do to kind of bring that out so you can work with it? Not just in the next few days, but anytime you feel you need to do this, because that Aphrodite energy is big. She's over the top, incredible. She walks in a room and completely changes the energy in the room. That is an Aphrodite, and usually it's for good. That wonderful, beautiful, self-confident, incredible energy that you can bring with you into a situation to transform the energy in a room. Now, that is the incredible power of Aphrodite energy. To be able to walk into a space and claim it in a beautiful way Not like claiming it like a Hera archetype would do, which is to be, I am going to be the queen of this room. I am going to lead it. I am going to rule it. It is going to be in my dominion, and I'm going to do it well. Now, the Aphrodite aspect of walking into a room and owning it is very different. It's bringing with it the treasure of celebrating and appreciating everyone around you with the complete self-confidence of knowing you don't need to be doted upon in the moment. You don't have to steal all the energy in the room. You already have it within you. So you can give freely to others. And when you're doing so, it comes back to you because people love to be recognized and appreciated. It's just, you know, it makes everybody feel better. So on that note, I love both of you for being here with me. Thank you for being here. And let's go ahead and open up for open forum. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. Let's have a little conversation. Any observations you want to share, go for it. Anybody? Did you have anything to add, Monica? Leanne, anything you want to say about this, about anything else? Oh, okay. Let me see if I can. There may be a way on my end to change that. She'll be back. Let's see. Let me try something. I think that audio. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with managing that. That's not there. You should just be able to click on your microphones. Anyhow, every platform is different. I apologize. And how you're able to like control and go back and work the system. Unfortunately, I think there's some little glitches here with that sometimes. Anyhow.
Yeah, I know a couple times when sometimes if you log in, there's, I think there's like a order that you have to follow.
Oh, yes.
I think I've got come in a few times, but no, I think that like, you know, Aphrodite is pretty powerful for women for a number of reasons. Yeah. I love the, you know, the Aries and Aphrodite connection.
Right.
And as a Taurus myself, I feel like I have a little bit of a connection to, you know, Aphrodite and Venus, right?
Absolutely. And that's a great point I didn't touch on too, Monica. Thank you for bringing that up, that certain zodiac signs have an affinity for that being associated with the planet Venus. And you are. So that's wonderful. Mighty Aphrodite.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Very good.
But I love that because I think a lot of times we think of it just as Aphrodite and Venus really being just those representatives of romantic love, but then you also have kind of the playfulness and just the they're much more multidimensional than
right.
than some of the other archetypes, I think.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And with Aphrodite's, although I was saying that they are always a constant in their personalities, they can have a lot to the personalities. In Aphrodite's case, there was a lot going on there. Because she's both confident and vulnerable. She's both incredibly loving and has the ability to cause strife. Like pretty much any powerful goddess can, but in her case, yeah, she does it with such style though. It's so overt. It's so, there isn't like hiding it or doing it around the side or like sideways. It's really, really direct. So with Aphrodite energy, it's so easy to come to because it is so direct and easy to interact with. I think it makes it a great archetype to work with as a woman, to acknowledge that and to, you know, have a little fun with it. She's fun. And I think too, like as creative people, like you and I are both artists, I think we can kind of go there too through the artwork when we're engaging with the act of painting and that creative energy and using, our sense for balance and harmony and beauty. We can just put that right into our artwork too. So that's a nice way to do it. If you are a creative, and I apologize for the technical difficulties, Leanne, if you would like to put anything in the chat, feel free to do so. We can interact that way as well. That's absolutely fine. There's always a lot to work with when approaching the archetypes.
Yes, my mic is working.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad. Yay, that makes me feel good, because sometimes there's technical issues.
It was the first time that I heard something about archetypes. I'm completely new to this.
Wonderful.
But I felt somehow attracted to this subject and to Aphrodite. And yeah, I find it very interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate your being here and taking the time to do so. I have a group. Allow me to see if I can do this really quickly.
I like the power in your being and in your voice, behind your voice. And I was wondering, where do you get this power behind your voice from?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Well, I am also a singer. And when I was a girl, my mother and my father both, my dad is a singer and a musician, and my mom is a professionally trained actress as of her youth. When I was growing up, they trained me with vocal coaching, and I took some vocal coaching professionally with somebody else as well growing up to help open up that voice. And when I was a kid, I never had a problem with projecting and emoting. So for using my voice for me is something that kind of came naturally, but I've worked on it. I've worked on that.
There's also a big confidence behind.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and I was thinking about all the characteristics of Aphrodite. How you say it in English? Yes.
Yes. No, that's beautiful. Yes, of course.
And I think I might have some characteristics, but I lack the confidence. And I was thinking, how can I work about that confidence part?
Yes, the confidence. That is something that you may want to now work with this week then. So that would be something to, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a second to get a link for you. I would love to have you copy that link. Join, if you are on Facebook, to join me in a women's circle group I have in Facebook. It's called Mystical Women's Circle. I put the little link there in the chat. You're welcome to copy that.
Okay.
And you can come and you can post throughout the week of anything. You're more than welcome to. I always invite my ladies there to post about things. And I usually ask for prompts or give ideas, but you're welcome to go there too and write about what you may be experiencing after this class, and I can give feedback.
Okay. I guess the self-love might help with the confidence.
It does. Absolutely, it does. So those journaling prompts, I think, are going to help you a lot. So when you're thinking about self-confidence, just for the fun of it, what might be one way, simple way, small thing that you might work with this week that could help you with that? Is there anything that you could identify?
Identify with?
Like, is there certain something that you might do or wear or, decorate your home with that might make you feel a little bit more confident to express yourself in the way that you might want to?
Well, I really don't have any clue what to do for it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's a good space, because then you get the creative ability to be able to think about it this week. Maybe it's something like as simple as a rose. Have a rose or something, or something that you particularly love and enjoy eating. Make that something ritualistic that you do for yourself this week, and then think about, okay, why is this making me happy? And what can I do to kind of boost that feeling as I'm interacting with other people? Like, it's always about, where are you within yourself where you find the confidence inside yourself to be secure? What makes you feel safe to do so? You do not have to be a complete, perfect extrovert to work with the Aphrodite energy. It can be subtle. I've always been a little bit more extroverted, but there were times where I used the coaching that my parents gave me to help in situations where I wasn't comfortable. And there were moments, there were people that were unkind or situations that were difficult.
Yes. And I like that you mentioned where do you feel safe? I think feeling safe is an important part of this self-confidence.
Yes, definitely.
Feeling safe within yourself, feeling safe within your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Maybe. Yes. So if there is something in your environment that isn't making you feel confident, maybe that's where you start. Small adjustments. You know, for me during the pandemic, it's been all about that. Balancing it, what do I need to literally physically feel safe, depending on what we're doing. Mostly that's being at home, or when I go out, being sure I'm following certain things so I am more confident. Now, I've lost a lot of that. I used to travel and feel confident and go places, and now I'm not so much. So I have to work with the paradigm I'm in to find the confidence that I need in the moment. And my husband is very supportive. I'm grateful to have somebody who is right there working with me on that wavelength. So that's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And I really appreciate you being here. So on that note, please register for the next class, because that next class is about Artemis. Artemis is about not only, now we've learned about the love, right, aspect, the romance, the root chakra, the heart chakra power, how to use our power as women to gain the confidence. The next class is about being independent, strong, using our root self to find our authentic way of being. And that doesn't mean something like, oh, I'm going to be rude to people because that's authentic. No. Like true authentic. Who were you when you came on into this planet? What do you identify with as a child? And where do you take it? Like, what dreams did you have? What are you doing now in your life that can put you back into that sort of authentic, sitting with yourself and being confident in that space to interact with the world and other people using your true self, not the mask we put on because we think we have to, right? So
but
that's
can you register actually for all the classes or the next gatherings?
There's a link in the comments section. You will find, and you can always go to my website directly, which is www.elizabethmibarra.com. But I do have the link up. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll find the event link to register for future classes. There's also a donation link, no pressure, but if you did appreciate this class and want to contribute to my work, you can do that as well. And the Facebook link for you as well. Monica is already in my Women's Circle group. It would be great to have you there too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica also for being here present.
Monica is a wonderful, we're mostly local. You're sometimes in Arizona, sometimes here, but we have gotten to know each other over the past decade as artists in the since I've been living in this community. So Monica is great.
Are you both living in Arizona? Are you both living in Arizona?
Actually, Southern California in the desert.
Yeah.
Right? Oh. But you teach both in locally and in Arizona, right, Monica?
Yeah, I teach in Yuma and then here in the Imperial Valley. So kind of half and half.
Half, yeah. And so yeah, we are currently, I'm currently a desert dweller. It's hard on me. I'm actually from the northeast of the United States, so I call myself a mermaid in the desert. This time it's a little hard on me, but we just went to the beach yesterday, so that was great. Every time I go there, I absorb some negative ions and ocean air to bring myself back and feel refreshed.
For the characteristics of Aphrodite, the beach, the ocean, the water.
Yes, absolutely. And Aphrodite has always been an appealing archetype for me too. Like from the perspective of loving beautiful things. Whenever I look at something out in nature, I take a lot of pictures and I was like, I want to paint that, because as a painter, we kind of come from that perspective. I know what you mean. You know what I mean, Monica. But other things too, like I like to wear things that make me feel confident and pretty. And, you know, it's kind of always been my thing. My mom always got that about me too, growing up. I have very supportive parents and siblings as well. They all got what I was growing up, like, you know, and I liked being a little bit of a tough chick at the same time. So we're going to learn about the tough chick aspect of things with Artemis. Like, no nonsense. This is what I'm doing. Stand back. Watch out, world, here I come. You know. So when we start working with, and I invite you to explore goddess archetypes more, because it's really powerful and fun to work with. But you can always come to me for that. And if you would happen to like any previous class films sent to you to review from all the other ones I've recorded, I'd be happy to do that for you too.
That's very kind. Thank you.
Now, in the sense of time, I do need to sign off. I have to go run an errand. But I appreciate you both so much for being here. Much appreciation and gratitude and love to both of you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, expressing Aphrodite energy as we approach Valentine's Day. I will see you all next time, I hope. Have a wonderful day.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
See you.